Like some of it's not glamorous, but it's things that affect us every single day. And there's so many studies linking things that are in our environments, especially in our home, to health concerns. So that's kind of where kind of sparked my interest in creating a business to help people with that, is that knowledge of what I had learned in those kind of three areas, and then helping people, create a more low tox, non-toxic home environment.
Welcome to the Life Coaching for Mompreneurs podcast, where you will learn simple solutions to win at work without losing at home. Hi, my name is Martine Williams, and I'm your host and CEO, your Chief Encouragement Officer. And this podcast is your one-stop shop to creating a burnout-proof life and business by elevating your clarity, confidence, and courage. Friends, it's time to say goodbye to being the yes girl, to procrastinating on your goals and living in overwhelm. And it's time to say hello to creating healthy boundaries, healthy mindsets, and healthy habits so that you can achieve work-life harmony. Your next breakthrough starts here. This is the Life Coaching for Mompreneurs podcast. Let's do this. Hey friends, and welcome back to the show. Today we have a Turquoise Talk guest that I'm really excited about, Sarah Clark. She actually was a former client of mine, coaching client, and it's been really fun to watch her grow her business and grow her impact with her non-toxic living consultant business. So let me tell you a little bit about Sarah. She is a non-toxic living consultant who helps people reduce exposures to toxins in their homes, food, and personal care products. And y'all, I know this topic can be so overwhelming, and Sarah really works to simplify the process so that you can implement immediately. So she is a married mom of two, a former TV news reporter, and a breast cancer survivor. Each of those roles have led her to learn more about environmental health, exposures we face in our everyday lives. And she is super passionate to educate others on how to switch to safer products without feeling overwhelmed. And that's what I love about her is it's decreasing the overwhelm. It's helping you to get started right away and just make some small changes in the beginning and then build upon that and build upon that. And so you're going to love this conversation and you're going to love Sarah. So let's get to it. Well, hey friends, welcome back to the show. Today we have an amazing Turquoise Talk guest, Miss Sarah Clark. Thank you so much, Sarah, for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to chat.
Yes. So tell us just a little bit about you, your family, and I would love for them to know just like how you got started in entrepreneurship, where that transition happened.
Yeah, I mean, I've probably been an entrepreneur for, I don't know, like since 2007, 8 maybe. So it's been a while of various different businesses. I live in Northern California and I am a wife, a mom. I have two kids that are one college age and another one that's about to be in college. So getting ready for the empty nest stage, which would be a whole other ball game and adjustment. Yeah, I mean, I've just kind of had this entrepreneur thing like for a while. I mean, even before I when in my career that I had, I was in TV news and broadcast news. And what I liked about that is it was something different every day. Like, my hours might have been the same that I was at the TV station, but it was different every day. And I really liked that. And I liked educating people and telling people what was going on. And so I think the journey into entrepreneurship was just a natural fit into just helping people like make connections that they want, or whether that was like a tangible product or something that they could help them. And now into the business that I have, it's always been about educating people, helping others, and that kind of thing.
Yeah. And you have quite the story. And I do believe that stories are so powerful. And there's a listener that probably resonates with your story, which is why I love bringing on different guests and different mompreneurs for you they hear my story all the time. So I'd love for you just to share, like, how did you become interested in what you're doing now with, the non-toxic living? Because you do have a pretty powerful story on what kind of got you into that.
Yeah, so that journey has been a little twisty, but initially what I kind of learned, it kind of started with becoming a mom. And, like a lot of moms, we're researching things and products and want what's best for our kids. And so when my kids were really small, one of my kids has really sensitive skin, and products I was finding, like whether that was the shampoo, the baby shampoo, or lotion, or things like that that we were using, was irritating his skin. And I couldn't quite figure out because the bottles on the front, the labels were like, would say safe and natural. And I knew that that's okay, that's what I should be buying, something that's safe and natural for my baby. And
Mm-hmm.
the things just kept irritating his skin to the point where I was ready to like get our water tested because I was like, what is going on? But the rest of us were fine. And so I then learned from a friend who happened to share something on Facebook about the lack of regulation in the beauty industry in the United
Yeah.
States. And that kind of started my whole journey of like, wait, what? Like the things on the store shelves might not be as safe as we think. Like I just assumed, hey, I can walk into any grocery store or any store and purchase something and know that everything will be fine. Well, in
Yeah.
the United States, there's a lack of regulation in the beauty industry. And so companies don't have to prove that the ingredients that they're using in their personal care products are safe before going to market. And there's only about 30 ingredients that are banned or restricted in the United States. And
Mm.
so when I learned that, I got kind of mad. And I was like, wait, like I'm trusting that these things are safe and natural for my
Yeah.
baby
Yeah.
kids. And they most likely weren't, meaning they contained ingredients that could potentially cause harm to their health, to their skin, whatever it is. And so then I set out to like educate other people and align myself with a brand that was educating people about what was going on in the beauty industry, working to change things, working to change laws so that we do have more health protective laws because it's something that affects all of us. Like people hear beauty products and they think, oh, it's just women, right? It's
Yeah.
makeup, it's
Yeah.
lipstick. And
Mhm.
that's not it. It's the whole personal care industry, which is deodorant, it's toothpaste, it's face lotion and sunscreen, it's everything. So, men are using that, kids are using that, people of all ages. And so it affects all of us. And if there's ingredients that are known to cause harm allowed in our products, that's not okay.
Yeah.
So that started my journey into like kind of a healthier living type thing. And then a few years later, there was an autoimmune diagnosis in our family. And I kind of dove right into figuring out how to best heal that person. And we kind of learned about in a way to sort of heal with food instead of having to just do medication.
Mhm.
Medication was always on the table if we needed it, but we decided to go all in on this specialized diet. And so that kind of led me into digging in more into the like what's happening in our food and
Yeah.
how there's a lot of ingredients allowed that shouldn't be okay and reading labels. And same thing I did with personal care products, it's all about reading labels and knowing what to look for, knowing what to avoid. And it helped change the health of like all of us really. And so then I kind of became passionate about that and like what
Mhm.
is going on with this food and we make healthier choices with that. And I find in a lot of times that sometimes in the wellness space, it's either like an all or nothing kind of thing, or people feel
Yeah.
that they need to do
Yeah.
that. They need to be
Yep.
perfect, right? And
Hmm.
that's never going to happen. And so that's just impossible to do. And that adds too much stress. And so there's a middle ground, right? You can find some crackers or whatever it is that you might be buying at the store, but are in the better category of
Hmm.
like, you're not making this from scratch. Cause I did that for a long time. I was making crackers and bread and all these things from scratch. And it's a lot of time and it's a
Mm.
lot of work. But having that middle ground of like, okay, these are healthier options to buy. They're not
Yeah.
on this end, which are like kind of really junky, but let's go for the middle. And that's kind of what I help people with. So that's kind of what I learned about food. And then this is a really long all
Another
this.
twist, another turn. But isn't that life though? It's just life, right? And I love your determination in each of those two stories that you've just shared so far of how you took ownership of like, here's the problem. And I'm not just going to sit back and be a victim of the circumstance. I'm actually going to try to do my part, right? And get in there and learn about it. And I think so many of us, and this is not throwing shade at anyone because we've all done it. We want the easier way out. And being your own research and your own advocate is not always the easy way out
Right.
of it.
A
Like you
lot of
said, it
time.
takes more time. It takes more time. It takes more testing. It takes trying to figure things out, versus just trusting that the label is what it is, like you said. Like just taking that extra step to flip it around and actually look at the ingredients and then know what to look for. I just think it's a beautiful example of taking ownership and choosing to do something different to create a different result for yourself.
Yeah, it really is about being your own advocate with things.
Mhm.
And that leads me into my next story, my next little twist, because I then 7 years ago, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And the story I like to, or what I like to share with that is, again, being your own advocate and really taking care of yourself, because I had a lump show up literally out of the blue. Like, it was like, well, that's weird. I didn't notice that yesterday,
Mm.
and went to my doctor a few weeks later, and she told me it was nothing. She brushed it off, said this is not cancer, nothing to worry about. I had a few other things going on, like symptoms of things, just some fatigue and some other things that I just knew something was off in my body. I didn't
Yeah.
know what. I didn't think it was cancer or anything really serious, something off. And
Right.
she kind of just was throwing medications at me and was like, "You're too young." I was 42 at the time. She's like, "You're fine, move along," kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I wasn't concerned, right? But then this lump didn't go away. And so a couple months later, I went to another doctor, and she wasn't concerned either. She just kind of said, "I think this is a benign cyst. I think it's fine, but you could get an ultrasound to rule it out." So again, now I have two doctors not concerned. So I waited a couple more weeks, scheduled the ultrasound, not in a hurry. I remember going in and just kind of super nonchalant. Like, I was not even scared. So I was like, two doctors aren't concerned. Why would I be?
Right. Right.
And it was like I was in there in the middle of the day. I'm like, I needed to go pick kids up from school right after. And that appointment changed everything, because the technician brought in a radiologist. They got very quiet, very serious. They immediately were like, "You need to get a biopsy. You need to get a mammogram." They were like throwing these things at me. And I was like, what is happening right now? Like,
You're
this
like, this
is
is no
supposed to
big
be,
deal. I had two doctors tell me this is no big deal.
yes,
What's happening? Yeah.
yes, this is nothing. I need to go pick my kids up from school. Like, I don't have time for this. And they were like, "This most likely looks like cancer. Like, you need to like move on this quickly." So I'm texting like my husband and a friend to pick kids up from school, like, all this. And I'm like in shock.
Yeah.
And so then that set off. I went back the next day. I was there by myself. So I went back the next day for a biopsy, mammogram, was diagnosed the next day with breast cancer, and obviously was shocked.
Yeah.
And eventually had a lumpectomy. I had 8 rounds of chemo. I had 20 sessions of radiation. And it was basically a 9-month process of that whole thing. So then during that time, I had learned all this stuff about like personal care products. And, up until that point, I'd only been kind of using safer things for a couple of years. Like, who know, I know I was scent junkie, like in my
Yeah.
teenage and college years, where everything smelled the same, and, all the things, the lotions and all the things. So I kind of, through that breast cancer journey, got involved in a couple groups and things like that were very helpful. And what I realized was there wasn't a whole lot of talk on environmental health and how things in our environment can affect our own personal health. Like, there was all this talk on diet and exercise, which obviously it's important, but I felt like there was this missing piece. And what I had learned through, again, being in this beauty industry, and then along my journey with food, there is this other aspect that does affect our health. So that's the environmental health aspect, which sounds kind of dry, but really it's all the things that we're exposed to, like in our home, and things we're exposed to every single day. So whether that is the lotions that you're putting on, and the lip balm, the pots and pans you're using in your kitchen, how you're storing your food, the indoor air quality, like some of it's not glamorous, but it's things that affect us every single day. And there's so many studies linking things that are in our environments, especially in our home, to health concerns.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where kind of sparked my interest in creating a business to help people with that, is that knowledge of what I had learned in those kind of three areas, and then helping people, create a more low tox, non-toxic home environment.
Yeah. Yeah. Just such an incredible story. And a couple of thoughts that I had while you were talking is, number one, it is a lot of information, right? And it's kind of like why people struggle so much with, well, what do I eat? One day they're telling me to eat this, and then one day they're saying, well, that's bad for you, right? And there's drink this, do this type of exercise. No, don't do that when you're over 40. Like, it's just like all of this information. And it can just be really overwhelming. And I think the other thought that people have potentially could have, because I know I've had, is it won't happen to me.
Mm-hmm.
It won't
Absolutely.
happen to me, right?
Yeah.
Or that's not a big deal. That's just one plastic container. How is that, making a big deal? Or like you said, the pots and pans, like is that really making a big difference? Like I think we
Right.
just because we're trying to avoid, I'm thinking about myself here, like avoiding the work that I know it's going to take for me to really make some changes. But I love your approach because you're more about let's not do everything all at one time because it's not the all or nothing. It's what are some
Right.
simple, doable changes that are better options than the ones you have right now. And maybe you just start in the kitchen, right? Like
Right.
what would you say is the number one place for someone to start? Is it a place in their home or is it really like your personal care products that you're
I
using?
mean, personal care products are always kind of my favorite thing because that's kind of what I spent the longest time in,
Yeah.
doing and helping people with. And I think it does add up. I mean, if you think about like even women or whatever, some people may say like, oh, I don't wear much makeup or, I don't do this, but it adds up. Like I said,
Yeah.
the lip balm you're using, the lotion, the body wash, the shampoo, like if you count it up, like it's quite a few. And even for men and boys and all of that as well. So, thinking about how I like to frame it is think about what are you running out of? And like, if you need to get a new foundation or a new shampoo, like choose something safer the next time.
Yeah.
Like start reading those labels, start knowing what to look out for and choose something safer. It doesn't mean go through and throw everything out. I mean, people do that, but
Yeah.
that's not always financially feasible or, environmentally friendly or whatever to go ahead and do that. But just as you're running out of things, choose something safer. And then kind of the same in the kitchen, like look around with what you have. Like you might not even need to, instead of storing leftovers, say in plastic, use glass. And yes, you can go buy glass containers, but you probably have some in your house, a mason jar or a leftover spaghetti sauce jar or anything like that that you can use for storage, like just
Yeah.
something that you're reducing the contact with plastic.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. I think we can make these changes in our home. And I found that with me, like, especially during my breast cancer journey, it was something I could control. Like I could control what I was buying and what I was bringing into my home and know that that was making a difference for my family and my own health. I don't worry about it when I'm out in the world. I don't worry about it at a restaurant. Like, what are the pans that they're using to cook with? Like, that's just not
Can you imagine? Excuse me, sir. Can you tell me? Go ask the chef what kind of pots and pans are you
right.
using?
Like, that is just not
Yeah.
that's not, you're not gonna be able to do that. Like
You just don't eat
maybe
out. If you're that worried about it, you just don't eat out, right?
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. So I don't worry about that kind of stuff when
Yeah.
I'm out in the world, like what I'm exposed to, because I can't control that, but I can control what I'm bringing into my home and what I'm, choosing to purchase for my family and for myself. And so that's where I kind of focus. And that's what I help other people with as well
Yeah.
to reduce that overwhelm because you can't it's impossible to avoid things in this day and age. It just is. And so knowing how, if it is in your own home, it's much easier to kind of like dial that down. And then you do know what to look out for when you're out, somewhere
Yeah.
else or with family or with friends or wherever.
Yeah. What do you like out of like the research that you've done and the work that you've done? I mean, personally, but also just with other people, like, why is it important to be aware of these toxins? Like, I know you talked about like the immune system, you talked about like your own breast cancer journey, but what are some other, like, someone's listening right now and they're like, so what? Like, how is this really going to impact me either in the short term or in the long term? Like, what is the big risk here for people? Hey friend, let's talk. It's time to book your clarity call. We are going to spend 1 full hour focused on you. A clarity call isn't about pressure, it's about possibilities. It's about you. You having a space to talk through what's on your heart and mind, you walking away with a clear vision and practical next steps, and you feeling confident in what's next and how to get there. You don't need to have it all figured out. That's my job. All you need to do is show up, and we'll figure it out together. This is the best hour you can invest in yourself right now. Not in 6 months from now, not next month, right now. And don't just take my word for it. Here's what one of my coaching clients had to say after working together.
Working with Martine helped my confidence in starting and growing a new business. I had an idea of what I wanted to do, but I wasn't quite sure how to accomplish it. Martine helped me work through my ideas based on the results of my pro scan, and having weekly calls really helped me stay focused and working toward my goal. I highly recommend working with Martine for those who want to grow their business or who are just getting started. Having that focused time to work and work together is priceless.
That transformation, it starts with one conversation. It's time to stop spinning your wheels and start making real progress. So head right now to martinewilliams.com or in the show notes and grab your private clarity call spot on my calendar before they're gone. And since I personally monitor my inbox, if you don't see a time slot that fits your calendar, just send me an email at martinewilliams.com with 3 times that do work, and I will make it work for you. All right, friend, let's get back to the show.
There are a lot of studies out that have been going on for a while now that show that a lot of things in personal care products, in plastics we're exposed to, dust in our home, which is, again, not a glamorous topic at all. People are like, my house dust, you. But house dust has all the things that are like coming off of our electronics and things like that. There's finding that there's a lot of chemicals and ingredients in these things that are linked to like endocrine disruption, which can affect fertility. It can affect, people's lives. I mean, women for sure has a big impact on in endocrine disruptors, but also men as well. There are links to, asthma, allergies, cancer, like a whole list of things that are known links to a lot of these ingredients in our food, in our personal care products, and even things that we're exposed to in our home. And so just reducing that toxic load on your body, can help set yourself up for just better health. And it's things that really don't need to be super challenging. Yes, some come with like a financial thing. Like if you're switching out your pots and pans, that can get expensive to do all at once. So maybe choose one or two that you use the most often and then start there.
Yeah.
And then kind of weed those out. And so, there are numerous studies that are linked to a lot of these things that it's like we know better, but due to various reasons, they're still allowed in our products and on the shelves.
Yeah. Yeah. And like I said, I think it just kind of goes back to the mentality of it won't happen to me, or is it really that big of a deal? Or like I've heard people say before, like, well, something's going to get me. So, it's, which is true. And, but let's make it harder for certain things to get you, and I think that as a preventative, right? So maybe someone's listening and they don't really have any that they know of symptoms or signs or of any disruptions happening in their body right now. But even as a preventative to getting there, right? Like this is like you would do anything else. Like you go and get your routine physical, you go and or at least hopefully you are, if you're listening. If you haven't, this is your reminder, go get your girls checked and all the other things. But like, if you could think of it in that way, and again, I just love how simple you make a very complex topic. And like you said, it's kind of dry and it can just feel like wah wah. It's like listening to Charlie Brown, the teacher in Charlie Brown, but it is important. And I really feel like God puts a story in someone's heart or a mission in someone's heart for a reason. And we go through some of the things that we went through, like you did, right? To be where you're at today and to help someone else, like reach back and pull someone else up and say, hey, there's a better way to live. There's a better way to create a non-toxic or a less toxic or a low toxic. It may not be no toxins. I don't know if that's even possible to be completely 100% non-toxic. Right. And that's not the goal, right? It's like, how can you make it work for you and your family?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's, I kind of noticed, and that's another thing that sparked kind of this business that I'm doing now when I was going through breast cancer treatments, like chemo especially, is I had very little side effects. And that was the thing that I was the most terrified of, because you hear all these horror stories of people going through chemotherapy and how sick they get. And I really didn't. Like I was maybe, a couple days after each round kind of laying low, and then I was fine and about on my way. I did do some integrative medicine things as well, some like infusions and vitamins and things like that I worked with integrative doctors on. So that I think that helped. But also what helped, I really feel passionately and strongly that the lower toxic load on my body really helped be able to like heal where I needed to heal. So my body wasn't like fighting with all these other chemicals that were in my, personal care products or my food or whatever. not to say that I eat perfectly or do everything perfectly, because again, that's not reality. Like, of course,
Right.
there's definite things that are not,
Mhm.
always amazing. But again, if you can like lessen it and lessen your exposures, especially for our kids, especially for like developing girls,
Yeah.
very, very, very important. And they're paying attention. Like my daughter my kids have heard me say this stuff for years now. And, they finally like see it somewhere else or whatever. And they're like, hey, did you know? I'm like, yeah, I
Yeah.
did know. Like,
You're like, I've
this is
been
what
saying this for a really long time.
yeah. But they're just hearing it from somebody else
Oh,
helps,
yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
so that it's always really funny when my daughter brings me something like that. I'm like, yes,
Yes.
I did know
Yes.
this.
It's a really great idea. And I said it about 10 times.
Right. Yeah. Because that's what's tricky too, is like, okay, she's a teenage girl, like wants to have all the good smelling
Yeah.
things. And there are ways, thankfully, there's a lot of brands out there now that are
Yeah.
offering safer
Yeah.
products that you don't have to sacrifice, efficacy and how they work. Because I found that too when I was starting, especially on the like with the personal care products and like shampoo. I was like, okay, I'm buying these like really safe products, but then I can't brush my daughter's hair because it's a tangled mess. And I'm like,
Yeah.
that's not going to work either. That's a waste of
Right.
money and time.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
where are those products that can be high performing, but also safer? And thankfully, there are brands out there. And so that's what I help people with is figuring out what to buy because that's part of the challenge. And
Yeah.
I, like I said, would spend hours researching things and people don't have time to do that. So I do the work for you and I
Yeah.
offer like, these are the safer brands to buy. These are the things that you can find here or here or here. And know that these are all, safer things. And I have like a shop that has recommendations of like, again, all the personal care products, but then also things in the home, like food storage and pots and pans and all of that. So I'm doing the research, which I actually like doing. And I know that's not for everybody, and people think I'm weird, but that's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
And if it can help somebody else, that's my goal. I don't
Yeah.
want people to have to go through, and I'm not saying like by no means will you never get cancer. Like if I can help
Right.
prevent something though, or just lessen the toxic load on people's bodies, that's what I want to help with.
Yeah, yeah. And I think it just like this is kind of a byproduct of this, and whether it's choosing non-toxic living or a lower toxins in your home, or choosing healthier foods, or choosing to move your body, like it just makes you feel more confident that you're
Mhm.
making the healthiest choices or healthier choices, or you're on your way to making more healthy choices. So, depending on where you are in your journey, but I just do feel like it all kind of works together, right? Like if you're trying to increase activity in your body and you're exercising, like you're probably not going to go out there and eat a cheeseburger while you're doing that. You're probably
Right.
going to want to not offset the work you just did on the treadmill. So you're going to choose a healthier choice. Now, some days you might still eat the pizza, right? But it's like they all kind of work together. And so if someone is listening and they're kind of on that journey, like this could just be your next step. And I love that there's someone like Sarah out there who is cutting through all of the weeds and all of the research, because that's what she loves to do, is to research and to teach you what to do and make it as simple as possible. Like now you all have a resource for it. So if it's been on your mind and it's been something you've been thinking about maybe for the new year, like or maybe you're like, I hear non-toxic all the time, but I don't even know what that means or what that would look like for me on a daily basis. Like you now know someone through Sarah who can help you with that. And I do think you keep it super simple, take it very complex, and you help people just take the next step. So if someone's listening today, like what are just maybe one, two, or three just easy things they can start implementing? I have a couple that you've told me, but I want to hear if there's anything else that's changed. But
I know
like
you
if
can share
someone,
what you've learned from
yeah,
me.
I mean,
Like,
just taking the shoes off. Like when you
yeah,
said that, I was like, and some people like grew up doing that. I didn't grow up with that, right? Like
certain
you'd wear a
cultures
shoe.
that is like the norm, right?
Yeah,
Like
you
in the
just wear your
United
shoes
States.
everywhere. But when you
In the
think about
United
it,
States,
how gross is it?
yeah, in the United States, that's not totally the norm. It's like a cultural thing. A lot of places.
Yeah.
I know my cousins in Switzerland. That's the first. Like you do not step foot inside the house without having like your inside shoes on. Like they all
Yeah.
have their inside shoes. And yeah, taking your shoes off is a big one. If you think about all the places you walk,
Uh,
like
I know. It's
and even
crazy.
through a parking lot. I mean, even still with my kids being, in their they're young adults, and I'm like, don't walk through the oil in the parking lot. Like
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
things like that. If you think about where you're walking or like just out on your sidewalks and there's been pets and you don't want that trapped in your home. And so taking off your shoes is an easy thing. If you need to wear shoes in the house, find some that are indoor shoes that, like I said, my cousins all do, or I wear slippers pretty much nonstop, like all winter, of course.
Yeah.
That's a big one. Opening up your doors and windows to just get like fresh air, even when it's cold out, just to exchange the air a little bit can really help things. And ditching and less, well, ditching, I'll say
Yeah.
completely fragrances in the home. And people don't like this one because they like their good smelling candles and things
Candles.
like that. But fragrance is a really big one. It's an issue with in your personal care and beauty products, also in the home, because it can cause a lot of like respiratory things, but also just carcinogens that things we're exposed to in the burning of candles and things like that as well. So thankfully there are safer brands out there so that you don't have to like skip it all
Sacrifice.
together.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
That's the whole goal here, right? Is like, let's find that middle area of like, we can still have these things, but at like a safer,
Yeah.
level. And what I find is that some of those products that, might be a little bit pricier on the, in the front end last a lot longer. And so you're not using as much, which means you're not replacing it as frequently. So
Yeah.
that part is a good thing to keep in mind as well. But those are definitely my top tips. Like skip the fragrance, open up doors and windows, even if it's cold, just for, 10, 15 minutes. It doesn't have to be all
Yeah.
day. Finally, as we're getting closer to spring, I'm like, yeah, we can have these open longer.
Yeah.
And, it really helps. Like, I feel like it makes the house just better. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. And then taking off your shoes. Those are definitely
Yeah.
that are free. Everybody can do those.
Yeah. And they're just simple steps. Like if you just did that for ever from now you know better, so now we should do better, right? And maybe this is bringing things top of mind for people, but they can be just some very simple things for them to implement right away. So I love that. There's so much more information, and I know this is something you're super passionate about helping people do. So tell them a little bit about, as we wrap up, like how they can get in touch with you. What is it, the things that they can engage with you on? Like, how can we make this simple for them and letting you be their resource and helping them take those next steps?
Yeah. I mean, that's like I said, I have like a kind of a shopping guide on my website, also Instagram. It's betterhealthwithsarah.com is my website. And Instagram is the same handle, LinkedIn, kind of all the places. And I have that resource there of what to buy. It's like a shop in there and has links to all different products. I also work with people one-on-one. So if there's certain things that you're like, I just don't know what to do or where to start, or I want, help with my personal care products only, or with, help me clean up my home only, or all of the above, right? I work with
Right.
people one on one to help kind of work through those things and help make those healthier choices. And then I also do have an on-demand course that's 5 different lessons. Each week is, or each session, each week, they're broken out into weeks, but you can do it however you want to do it.
Yeah.
Each one is a different topic, with handouts and guides and things like that, shopping guides, again, to help you, know what to do. Because sometimes having a lot of information, you're like, well, now what?
Right.
This helps you like, okay, this is what I can buy, or this is what I can do next. So I have all of those available to anyone who, might want more help or to really get started on this journey.
Yeah, I love it. So if you're a DIY girl, she's got you covered with her on-demand stuff. And then if you're like, no, I need someone to hold my hand, she also has you covered with that too. So I love that so much. And they can find all of that on your website. Is that right?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Okay. So we'll put the links to everything in the show notes for y'all. And Sarah, thank you so much for coming on. It's been just such a joy to get to know you and to work with you, and just to see the impact that you're having in the world with the people that you're working with. And it's just getting started. So I can't wait to see where you're headed next.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm obviously passionate about this topic. And if I can help just even one person, I mean, my goal is to help a lot of people, but just one person make those healthier choices, then I'm super happy.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, friends. Well, I will catch you on the next episode. And until then, I'm believing in you always. Well, that's a wrap, friends. Thank you for tuning in to today's episode. I really hope it met you right where you are and gave you some encouragement for your day. Could you do me the biggest favor and leave me a rating and review? Seriously, it's the best way for you to support the show. And while you're there, be sure to follow the show so you never miss an episode. Thanks again. And until next time, I am believing in you always.